Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Anatomy 3, which is emphasis on physiology. So if you can make sure that you have your Google Slides open, that would be great. Physiology has a whole lot of big terms, a part of it kind of more than we've seen in the past. So I want to make sure that we take this slow and make sure that you have these terms in your note cards. So we're going to start on slide number 3 that has the different picture with the parts of the bones, okay? Our first term that we're going to talk about is hyaline cartilage. Okay, we've seen cartilage before. We've talked about it in Anatomy 2 and Anatomy 1. So with cartilage, we remember that it's a shock absorber. It's a cushion that is used to help protect two bones where they're connecting. So a problem that we see is when that cartilage starts to break down, there's no cushion in between those two bones. And so the bones actually end up rubbing on top of one another, which creates a lot of pain. We see this in the development of arthritis. Okay. The second term that we're going to talk about today is epiphysis. Okay, I know it's a big word, so I'm going to say it again. Epiphysis. Okay. You can see on the picture that we have the epiphysis up here and the epiphysis down here. And what that is it's our growth plate. Okay, I'm sure some of you guys have heard the term growth plate before. And so these plates are at the end of our long bones, and what they're responsible for is to help lengthen the length of those bones. That's why you are not born the same height that you're going to be the rest of your life, is because these growth plates are open through puberty and they help expand. Okay, so we see those growth plates at the end of every long bone. Okay, they're not at the end of the short, those flat or irregular bones, just long bones. Our next term that we see is diaphysis. Okay, this is going to be that middle shaft part of the long bones. Here, it's important because this is where we see a lot of fractures because it is typically a little bit more fragile. Okay, it's usually just not as sturdy as the parts of the growth plates. Okay, the diaphysis also helps contain where we're going to make that new blood. All right, remember we talked about in Anatomy 1 and 2 that long bones are where we produce our new blood. So it's also, the diaphysis is also called the shaft. Okay, so remember that middle part is the shaft, mid shaft of our bone. Our next term is periosteum. Okay, periosteum is considered the gatekeeper. Okay, just like the skin, it helps to keep things inside the bone that need to stay inside the bone, but it also helps allow things out like that new blood. So the periosteum, if you see, is a very thin casing basically that goes around the bone, and it's showing you got the periosteum with the little black line around all the way around the long bones. Okay, so remember that periosteum is a gatekeeper. It helps keep things in that should stay in, and it helps allow things to come out like that new blood. Our next term is medullary cavity. Okay, another big word, medullary cavity. And that's going to be just that open space in the middle where the new blood is being produced. Okay, it's kind of like a hollow tunnel in there where our body is developing new blood, as well as bone marrow, which is our next term. Okay, bone marrow is used to help our immune system. Okay, I don't want you guys to stress too much about it because we'll only talk very little about it, but bone marrow is used to help people with cancer. Okay, I'm sure some of you guys have heard about that before, but here are the different components of bone marrow, just for your knowledge. You won't be tested on this, I promise. Okay, that's actually the only parts of the bone that we're going to talk about today. So remember, we talked about hyaline cartilage, which is going to help to shock absorb and cushion the ends of our long bones. We talked about the growth plate, that epiphysis. Okay, remember it's at the ends of our long bones. We talked about the diaphysis, which is the shaft in between those two growth plates. It's a big place for fractures or for the bone to break. We talked about the periosteum, which is the gatekeeper going all the way around, letting that new blood out and kind of holding different cells inside that long bone. And then we talked about medullary cavity, which is inside the bone where the new blood is made. Okay, the last little section that we're going to talk about is the parts of the muscle fiber. Okay, here is, I really just want you to know this very, very little part of it. Okay, remember we talked about in Anatomy 2 that the muscle fibers are broken down into millions and millions and millions of other fibers. Okay, we see our biceps. Okay, it's not just one fiber. If there's an injury there, it can occur to just a handful of fibers versus the whole entire thing. So this picture is showing you, this is our main part of our muscle, and it's broken down even smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, there's a lot of terms on there. I don't need you to know them, okay? Just know that there's thousands and thousands and thousands of fibers in our muscles, okay? And this is just showing you some of the anatomy of the muscles. Again, just know that there are thousands of muscle fibers in every muscle. This is what I really want you guys to remember. So we talked in Anatomy 2 about muscle contractions, okay? Remember when we have our muscle fibers that are relaxed, they are all the way lengthened, and then once they start contracting is when they start to run on top of each other, okay? And so that's where we get the muscles that get bigger, all right, and kind of expand up instead of lengthening out. So that's what this picture is showing you here. So this top picture is showing you the muscle relaxed, and all those muscle fibers are as far stretched as they're going to be. And then the bottom picture shows that muscle is being contracted. So like when we were doing our biceps curls in class, okay, those muscle fibers are running on top of each other. Okay, and that's what allows that muscle to contract. And the main reason that that's happening is because of these actin and myosin. Okay, I told you guys in Anatomy 2 that these are the terms that I wanted you to remember from the muscles. Okay, and these together, actin and myosin, help allow those muscles fibers to go on top of one another. And that's the only thing I need you guys to remember, is that actin and myosin help make that muscle contract. Without that, and without it being attached to a bone, you are not going to have a muscle contraction. Okay, I know that was a lot, but that was the end of anatomy. Okay, make sure you ask me if you have any questions. Thanks, guys.